You felt it. That look he gives you when he thinks you're not paying attention. The way his voice drops half a tone when he says your name. The way he lingers, not in a careless way, but like someone standing at the edge of water, wanting to dive in but terrified of the depth. And yet, he pulls back. He goes quiet. He says something tender one evening and then disappears for 3 days. He holds your hand like you're the most precious thing he's ever touched. And then the next morning, he barely meets your eyes. And you're left standing in the middle of it, wondering, does he love me or not? Let me tell you something, he does. Deeply, perhaps more deeply than even he understands. But something complicated is standing between his heart and his ability to fully give it to you. And no, it's not another woman. It's not boredom. It's not boredom. It's not that he doesn't care enough. According to the work of Carl Jung, one of the most profound psychologists who ever lived, what's blocking this man may be something he cannot even see, a war being fought entirely beneath the surface of his own awareness. And here's what makes this painful for you. You can feel the love. It's there. You're not imagining it. You're not being delusional or desperate. Your intuition is telling you something real. But every time you reach for it, it shifts, like trying to hold light in your hands. So before you walk away, before you tell yourself you're foolish for still believing in what you feel, stay here. Because in this video, we're going to explore what Jung understood about the hidden architecture of the male psyche, the forces that can make a man genuinely love someone and simultaneously be unable to fully show it. Not because he's weak, not because he's playing games, but because something deep inside him, something ancient, unresolved, and largely unconscious, hasn't yet given him permission to love you the way he wants to. And once you understand what that something is, everything you've been confused about will finally make sense. Before we go further, take a moment, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Have you ever loved someone who clearly loved you back but couldn't seem to fully let you in? Tell me your story, because I think many of us have lived this, and there's power in knowing you're not alone. Now let's begin with the first thing Jung would want you to understand. Every man carries two versions of himself. There is the man you see, the one who speaks, who acts, who shows up in the world with his habits, his mannerisms, his particular way of holding a conversation or avoiding one. And then there is the man underneath, the one even he may not have met yet. Jung called this hidden layer the unconscious. Not in the casual way we throw that word around today, not as a synonym for unaware, but as a living, breathing landscape inside every human being, filled with memories, impulses, fears, desires, and ancient patterns that shape behavior from the darkness. Think of it like this. Imagine an ocean. The surface is what you see, the waves, the light, the movement. That's his conscious mind, his personality, the version of him you interact with daily. But beneath that surface there are currents, deep and powerful, pulling in directions he doesn't choose and sometimes doesn't even notice. When this man looks at you with that impossible tenderness and then retreats, he's not making a decision, he's being pulled. Something beneath the surface is yanking him back, and he may not even know what it is. He just feels the pull and obeys it because the unconscious is not polite. It does not ask permission. It acts. Jung spent his entire life mapping this underwater world, and what he found there explains almost everything about why love, real love, deep love, is sometimes the very thing that triggers a man's deepest resistance. Because love doesn't just touch the heart, it reaches down into the unconscious and stirs up everything that's been sleeping there, every wound, every fear, every unfinished story. And for many men, that stirring feels less like romance and more like danger. So the first truth is this: His withdrawal is not a measure of how little he feels for you. It may be the exact opposite. It may be a measure of how much he feels and how frightening that feeling is when it reaches the parts of himself he has never learned to face. Now I want to take you deeper, because to understand why this man loves you but can't fully reach you, you need to understand the single most important figure in his inner world, a figure he has never seen, never met consciously, and yet one who has been shaping every romantic relationship he has ever had. Jung called her the anima. The anima is the feminine image that lives inside every man's psyche. She is not a real woman. She is an inner figure, a composite, built from every experience he has ever had with the feminine, starting from the very first one, his mother. Now listen carefully, because this is where it gets both beautiful and complicated. The anima is not just a memory or an idea. In Jungian psychology, she functions almost like a living presence inside his mind. She colors his perceptions. She filters his emotions. She whispers to him in dreams. And most importantly, she determines how he experiences love. When a man falls in love, Jung said, he is not just falling in love with the woman in front of him, he is also responding to the anima, the inner feminine that the real woman has awakened. That's why love can feel so overwhelming, so much bigger than the situation seems to warrant. Because it's not just about you, it's about everything you've activated inside him, layers upon layers of feeling, memory, longing, and unresolved need. And here's the complication. If his relationship with the anima is undeveloped, if he has never done the inner work of understanding his own emotional depths, then the very intensity of what he feels for you becomes a source of confusion and fear. He doesn't have the internal framework to hold it. It's like pouring an ocean into a glass. The glass isn't flawed, it simply hasn't been made large enough yet. So what happens? He loves you. He feels drawn to you in ways that shake him. But then the intensity hits a threshold and something in him shuts down. He becomes distant. He becomes avoidant. He may even become irritable or cold, not because he stopped caring, but because his inner world has become too loud, too overwhelming, and the only way he knows how to cope is to create distance. You experience this as rejection. He experienced this as rejection. He experiences it as survival. And the painful irony is that the more deeply you connect with his anima, the more powerfully he feels the pull toward you, and the more violently his defenses can activate. You are not the problem. You are the catalyst. And catalysts, by their nature, create reactions that cannot be controlled. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that he seems most afraid precisely in the moments when things are going well? When you've had an incredible conversation, a night of real closeness, a moment where it felt like all the walls came down, and then the very next day he retreats further than ever? This is not a coincidence. In Jungian terms, this is the anima pulling him toward death, while his ego, his conscious identity, fights to maintain control. The ego says, this is too much, you're losing yourself, pull back. The anima says, go deeper. This is where the truth lives. And he is caught between them, paralyzed, torn, loving you, and fearing what that love is asking him to become. Because that's the real secret. Love, true love, the kind Jung wrote about, is not just a feeling. It is a demand for transformation. When you love someone deeply, that love asks you to grow, to expand, to face parts of yourself you've been avoiding. And not every man is ready for that. Not because he's a coward, but because the unconscious work required is genuinely difficult and no one taught him how to do it. Let me tell you about something else that lives in the dark. something every man carries but few ever acknowledge. Jung called it the shadow. The shadow is everything a man has been taught to hide, not just bad things, not just anger or jealousy or selfishness, though those live there too. The shadow also contains tenderness he was told was weak, vulnerability he learned to bury, grief he was never allowed to express, creativity he was mocked for, sensitivity he was shamed out of. From the time he was a boy, the world gave him a clear message. Be strong, don't cry, don't need anyone, handle it yourself, man up. And so, piece by piece, he took every part of himself that didn't fit that mold and pushed it underground, into the shadow. Now here you come, and you do something extraordinary without even trying. You make him feel safe. Your presence, your warmth, your way of seeing him, it reaches past his defenses and touches those buried parts. When he's with you, he feels things he hasn't felt in years, maybe ever. A softness, a desire to be held, an ache to be truly known. And that terrifies him, because those feelings live in the shadow. And the shadow, by definition, is the part of himself he has been running from his entire life. You didn't create the shadow. You didn't put those feelings there, but your love illuminates them. It's like walking into a dark room and turning on the light. Suddenly he can see everything he's been hiding from, and the instinct, the deep, almost primal instinct, is to turn the light back off. That's what the withdrawal is. That's what the silence is. It's not about you. It's about the fact that loving you requires him to face his own shadow, and he doesn't yet know how. Jung said something that cuts right to the heart of this. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This man's shadow is directing his behavior, his pulling away, his mixed signals, his inability to commit fully. These are not choices in the way we normally think of choices. They're automatic responses driven by parts of himself he hasn't integrated yet. And the hardest part for you is that you can't do this work for him. You can love him. You can be patient. You can hold space. But the journey into the shadow is one he has to take himself. No one can descend into another person's depths on their behalf. That's the brutal honesty of Jungian psychology. Growth is not transferable. But there's something important here that I don't want you to miss. The fact that he feels this turmoil, the fact that being close to you stirs things up in him, that is actually a sign of something meaningful. A man who feels nothing, a man whose shadow is not activated by your presence, that man is not in love with you. The disturbance is the evidence, the chaos is the proof. It's just that the proof doesn't look the way you expected it to. Now I want to talk about something that might explain one of the most confusing patterns in his behavior. The way he seems to become someone else, someone harder, someone colder, right after moments of genuine closeness. In Jungian psychology, every man develops what Jung called the persona. Think of it as a suit of armor, not physical armor, but psychological armor. A carefully constructed image designed to protect the vulnerable self underneath. His persona might be the confident one, the funny one, the strong one, the one who has everything together, the one who doesn't need anyone. Whatever shape it takes, the persona is always a performance, a negotiation between who he really is and who the world has demanded he be. Now, here's where this gets painfully relevant to your situation. When he's with you, truly with you, the persona starts to crack. In moments of intimacy, of emotional honesty, of real connection, the armor loosens. And for a moment you see him, the real him, the one underneath the performance, the tender one, the uncertain one, the one who is scared and hopeful in equal measure. And it's beautiful. Those moments feel sacred to you, and they should, because they are. But for him, the aftermath of those moments can be terrifying. Because when the persona cracks open, it doesn't just let love in, it lets everything in. The vulnerability, the need, the fear of being seen, the terror that if you truly know him, all of him, you won't stay. So what does he do? He rebuilds the armor fast. He puts the persona back on, sometimes harder and colder than before, because the opening felt too dangerous. He overcompensates. He becomes distant or aloof or suddenly very busy. He might even pick a fight, not because he's angry at you, but because conflict is a familiar form of distance, and distance feels safer than the nakedness of real intimacy. You experience this as whiplash. One day he's completely open, the next he's a stranger. And you think, what did I do wrong? The answer is nothing. You did everything right. You got close to him, and closeness activated his defenses, because closeness means being seen, and being seen means the persona can't do its job anymore. Jung said the persona is necessary. We all need one. But when a man mistakes his persona for his identity, when he believes the mask is his real face, then love becomes the greatest threat to his sense of self. Because love asks him to take the mask off, and if he doesn't know who he is without it, that request feels like annihilation. This is what you're up against, not indifference, not cruelty, but a man who is caught between the desire to be known and the terror of what being known might cost him. Let me go even deeper now, because there's another layer to this that most people never considered. It has to do with his mother. I know that might sound strange. You're in a relationship with him, and I'm bringing up his mother. But Jung would tell you that the relationship between a man and his mother is the original template for every romantic bond he will ever form. Not because he's looking for a replacement, but because the patterns were set so early that they became invisible. They became the water he swims in without knowing it's wet. If his mother was emotionally unavailable, if she was cold or distracted or depressed, or simply not able to be present in the way a child needed, then something got wired into him very young. He learned that the people you love the most are the ones who will leave. He learned that wanting closeness leads to disappointment. He learned that the safest way to love is from a distance, close enough to feel it, far enough that it can't destroy you. And he doesn't know he learned this. That's the key. These aren't conscious beliefs. They live in the body, in the nervous system, in the unconscious beliefs. They live in the body, in the nervous system, in the unconscious patterns that Jung spent his life studying. They are prefabrical. They were formed before he had words for what was happening, and so they operate beneath language, beneath logic, beneath all the rational explanations he might give for why he can't fully commit to you. Yes, on the other hand, his mother was overwhelming. If she was enmeshing, if she needed him to take care of her emotionally, if she made him her confidant or her partner in ways that weren't appropriate for a child, then a different wound got formed. He learned that closeness means being consumed. He learned that love is a trap that swallows you whole. He learned that if you let someone in completely, you lose yourself. Either way, the result looks the same from your side. He loves you, but he can't fully be with you. He reaches for you and then retreats. He wants the depth, but panics when he finds it. Jung would say that what he is responding to in those moments is not you. He is responding to the mother complex, an internal representation of his mother that lives in his unconscious and activates every time a woman gets close enough to touch his heart. You walk into his emotional space, and his unconscious doesn't just see you, it sees her. It sees every woman who has ever had power over his feelings. and it reacts accordingly. This is not fair to you. I want to be clear about that. You are not his mother. You are not whoever hurt him. You are you, a real person, standing in front of him, offering something genuine. But his unconscious doesn't make those distinctions. It operates on pattern recognition, not accuracy. And the pattern says, this feels like the thing that hurt me before. Protect yourself. Now I need to tell you something that might be difficult to hear, but is essential. There is a difference between a man who is struggling with his unconscious patterns and a man who is simply unwilling to grow. And it is your responsibility, not his, to know the difference as it relates to your own life. Jung believed in the capacity for transformation. He dedicated his entire body of work to the idea that human beings can become conscious of their patterns, integrate their shadows, and evolve into more whole versions of themselves. But he also understood that this process is voluntary. No one can be forced into individuation. The call must come from within. So the question is not just, does he love me? He probably does. The question is he doing anything about the things that stand between us? Because love without consciousness is just a beautiful cage. It's two people locked in a dance of approach and withdrawal, endlessly repeating the same cycle, never breaking through to the other side. And you deserve more than a beautiful cage. You deserve someone who is willing to do the work, not perfectly, not without struggle, but willingly. Watch for this. Does he ever acknowledge the pattern? Does he ever say, even clumsily, I know I pull away and I don't want to? Does he ever come back after the distance and try to explain what happened inside him? Does he show any curiosity about his own behavior? Any willingness to sit in the discomfort rather than fleeing from it? If he does, even imperfectly, then you are looking at a man in the early stages of his own individuation. A man whose love for you might actually be the very thing that catalyzes his transformation. And that is worth patience. That is worth holding space for. But if the pattern just repeats, if he pulls away and never addresses it, if he makes you feel crazy for noticing, if he treats your need for clarity as pressure or your desire for consistency as neediness, then something else is happening. Then the love may be real, but the willingness to grow is not. And without willingness, even the deepest love gets trapped in an endless loop. Jung would not tell you to leave him. Jung would not tell you to stay. What Jung would say is this: become conscious yourself. See the situation clearly. Stop telling yourself stories that make the pain more bearable but keep you stuck. Ask yourself what you're really choosing and why. Because here is another layer of this that we need to talk about honestly. Sometimes the reason you're drawn to a man who can't fully love you has as much to do with your unconscious as it does with his. Jung would call this the animus at work. The animus is the masculine image that lives inside every woman's psyche, the inner counterpart to the man's anima. And just as his anima draws him towards certain women, your animus draws you towards certain men. If your animus is carrying unresolved material, old wounds, unmet needs, a father who was emotionally absent, a pattern of equating love with longing, then you may find yourself irresistibly attracted to exactly this type of man. The one who is close but not quite there. The one who gives you just enough to keep you hoping. The one whose unavailability feels on some deep and irrational level like home. This is not a judgment. This is not me saying you chose this or that, you deserve the confusion. It's simply the way the unconscious works. It seeks what is familiar, not what is healthy. It replays old patterns, not because it wants you to suffer, but because it wants you to see. It keeps putting you in the same situation until you finally become conscious of what's happening. So while you're trying to understand him, take a moment to understand yourself. Ask yourself, honestly, what does this dynamic feel like beneath the surface? Is there something strangely familiar about this kind of love? Have you been here before with someone else in a different time? Does the ache of not quite having him feel almost comfortable, like a pain you know how to carry? If the answer is yes, then your unconscious is showing you something, not something to be ashamed of, but something to be curious about, something that if you bring it into the light could change not just this relationship, but every relationship that follows. Jung said the meeting of two souls is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Both. Not just him. This is not a one-sided story. It never is. Let me take you somewhere quieter now. Somewhere more intimate. I want to talk about what happens at night. Because here is something almost no one discusses. Many men experience their deepest feelings not during the day, not in conversation, not in the waking world where the persona is fully active, but in dreams. Jung placed enormous importance on dreams. He saw them as direct communications from the unconscious, a language of symbols and images that bypassed the ego's defenses and revealed what the waking mind refused to acknowledge. And for a man who is in love but struggling against it, dreams often become the battlefield where the real drama plays out. He might dream of you, not in simple wish fulfillment ways, not just pleasant fantasies, but in vivid, emotional, sometimes disturbing dreams that leave him unsettled when he wakes. He might dream of chasing you and never catching you. He might dream of holding you in a place that feels both safe and terrifying. He might dream of water, vast oceans, rising tides, floods. Water in Jungian symbolism represents the unconscious itself, the emotional depths. And when a man dreams of water, particularly water that is rising or overwhelming, it often means his feelings are becoming too large to contain. He probably won't tell you about these dreams. Many men don't have the language for it, or they dismiss dreams as meaningless random firings of the brain. But Jung knew better. He knew that what the conscious mind refuses to face, the unconscious will stage in the theater of dreams. And if this man is fighting his love for you during the day, his unconscious may be fighting back at night, trying to show him what he won't let himself feel while he's awake. There is something both beautiful and heartbreaking about this. He may be living an entire emotional life in his sleep that he never shares with you. He may wake up having felt the full force of what you mean to him and then spend the whole day trying to act normal. The distance you experience during the day might be the direct result of a night spent too close to his own truth. And he can't explain this to you, not because he doesn't want to, but because he literally doesn't understand what's happening. The unconscious speaks in a language the ego doesn't naturally comprehend. So he wakes up feeling unsettled, maybe anxious, maybe inexplicably sad, and he doesn't connect it to the dream or to you. He just feels off, and when he feels off, he withdraws. If you could see his dreams, you would never doubt his love. But you can't. All you see is the daytime version of him, the one with the armor back on, the one who keeps you at arm's length. And that's the tragedy Jung understood perhaps better than anyone, that human beings are so much deeper than what they show the world, and love is often the last thing to reach the surface. Now, I want to introduce you to a concept that might change how you see everything he does. Jung called it projection. Projection is when we take something from our own unconscious, a feeling, a fear, a desire, an unresolved wound, and without realizing it, we place it onto another person. We see in them what actually lives in us. And in romantic relationships, projection is everywhere. Here is how it might work with him. He sees your openness, your willingness to love, your emotional availability, and part of him admires it deeply. But another part of him, the part that was taught that vulnerability is weakness, feels threatened by it. And so, instead of recognizing that the threat comes from within, from his own discomfort with vulnerability, he projects it outward. He might accuse you of being too emotional. He might frame your desire for closeness as clinginess. He might tell him so, or even tell you that you're moving too fast, that you want too much, that you're being unreasonable. But what he's really saying beneath the projection is, you are touching a part of me that I haven't made peace with. Your openness reminds me of everything I've shut down in myself, and I don't know what to do with that. Projection is the unconscious mind's way of avoiding self-confrontation. Instead of looking in the mirror and seeing his own fear, he looks at you and sees a problem. It's not intentional, it's not malicious, but it is deeply unfair because it puts the burden on you to carry his unprocessed emotions. And here's the extra painful twist. Sometimes he projects not just his fears, but his unlived life onto you. Jung talked about how the anima often carries a man's undeveloped emotional nature. If he has spent his whole life being rational, controlled, detached, then his feeling side hasn't been developed. It hasn't been exercised. And when he meets you and you embody warmth, intuition, emotional richness, he doesn't just love those qualities in you. He is drawn to them because they are the very qualities he has suppressed in himself. You become, in his unconscious perception, the keeper of his own lost soul. And that is an incredibly powerful position to hold in someone's psyche. But it's also an impossible one, because as long as he projects his inner feminine onto you, rather than developing it within himself, he will need you desperately and resent that need at the same time. He will cling and push away in the same breath. He will love you for what you represent and fear you for the exact same reason. This is projection's cruelest paradox. The thing he loves most about you is the thing he most needs to find in himself. And until he does that work, his love for you will always carry the shadow of dependence and fear. Now, let me talk about time, because I know you're wondering, how long? How long do I wait? How long do I hold on? How long before the love that I can feel becomes the love that I can live in? Jung would gently tell you that this is the wrong question. Not because your pain isn't valid, it absolutely is, but because individuation doesn't operate on a timeline. The unconscious doesn't respond to deadlines. Growth doesn't happen because someone has waited long enough. It happens when the psyche is ready, and sometimes the psyche takes years to be ready. Sometimes a lifetime. That is not an invitation to wait forever. It is an invitation to be honest with yourself about what you can and cannot carry. There is a Jungian idea called the tension of the opposites. It describes the state of being pulled between two contradictory truths at the same time: love and frustration, hope and exhaustion, loyalty and self-preservation. You are living in that tension right now. And Jung would say the answer is not to resolve it prematurely by forcing a decision, but to hold it consciously, to feel both sides fully until a third thing emerges, something new. A clarity that doesn't come from either extreme, but from the space between them. But holding the tension doesn't mean enduring suffering indefinitely. It means staying conscious while the situation reveals itself. It means paying attention to what is actually happening rather than to what you hope will happen. It means trusting that your own psyche, your own unconscious wisdom, will eventually show you the way forward if you let it. Some relationships are meant to be struggled for. Some are meant to be grieved and released. And the only way to know which one you're in is to be brutally honest with yourself about what you see, not what you wish you saw. Let me share something that Jung believed about love itself, something that might reframe everything. Jung did not see love as a simple emotion. He saw it as a force, a psychological force as real and as powerful as any physical law. Love, for Jung, was the energy that drove individuation itself. It was the fire that melted the old self so that the new self could emerge. And this is crucial. Love does not always feel good. Real love, the kind that transforms, is often uncomfortable, disorienting, even painful. Not because something is wrong, but because something is being reworked at the deepest level. Think about what this means for your situation. The confusion you feel, the pain, the not knowing, this may not be the absence of love. It may be the presence of a love so deep that it is reshaping both of you from the inside out. His resistance, your frustration, the endless push and pull, all of it could be evidence that something genuine and powerful is trying to be born. But birth is never comfortable. It is messy, frightening, and it requires a kind of surrender that the ego desperately resists. Jung once described the process of psychological transformation using the language of alchemy. He studied how medieval alchemists spoke of turning base metals into gold, and he recognized in their symbols a perfect metaphor for the inner work of becoming whole. And in alchemy, the most critical stage is called the nigredo, the blackening. It is the stage of dissolution, of breaking down, of everything falling apart before it can be rebuilt. If your relationship feels like it is in the nigredo, if it feels dark and confusing and like nothing makes sense, that does not necessarily mean it is dying. It might mean it is being forged. But only if both of you are willing to stay in the fire. Let me come back to you now, because in all of this analysis of his psyche, his shadow, his anima, his projections, I don't want you to lose yourself. And this is something Jung would insist upon. You are not a supporting character in his story. You are the protagonist of your own. And while understanding his inner world can bring compassion and clarity, it cannot become a reason to abandon your own needs, your own growth, your own path. There is a danger in understanding too much. When you see the wound beneath his withdrawal, when you understand the fear behind his silence, it becomes easy to forgive everything, to rationalize every absence, to translate every hurt into psychological insight, and thereby rob yourself of the simple, legitimate right to say, this is not enough for me. Compassion without boundaries is self-abandonment, and Jung would tell you that your own individuation, your own becoming, is just as sacred as his. You do not exist to be his healer, his therapist, his bridge to his own unconscious. That is his work. And if you take it on, you don't just exhaust yourself, you actually prevent him from doing what he needs to do. Because why would he descend into his own shadow if you keep shining your light into it for him? So here is what I want you to hold, both things at once. Yes, he is complicated. Yes, he is wounded. Yes, he is wounded. Yes, his love for you is probably real and deep and tangled in unconscious material that makes it hard for him to express. And also, yes, you deserve to be loved fully, openly, without constant guessing, without decoding, without sacrificing your peace of mind on the altar of his unresolved psychology. Both of these things are true at the same time. That's the tension of the opposites, and your task is not to choose between them, but to honor both. I want to go somewhere that might feel uncomfortable now, but stay with me, because this is important. Let's talk about what happens if he doesn't change, not as a scare tactic, not to make you anxious, But because Jung was fundamentally honest about the human condition, and honesty is what I owe you, some men spend their entire lives circling the edge of their own depths without ever diving in. They feel the pull. They sense that something vast and uncharted exists below the surface of their awareness. But the fear is too great, the defenses too entrenched, the cost of going deeper too high. And so they stay on the surface, repeating the same patterns, losing the same relationships, wondering why love never seems to work, but never quite making the connection to what's happening inside. Jung called this a failure of individuation. Not a moral failure, not a character flaw, but a stopping of the natural developmental process. The psyche wants to become whole. It pushes toward integration, toward consciousness, toward the union of all the split-off parts. But this push can be resisted, and for many men, especially in a culture that rewards emotional suppression and punishes vulnerability, the resistance wins. If that is the case with your man, then no amount of love will be enough. Not because the love isn't real, but because he is not available to receive it. He is a closed door with a sign that says open, and you keep knocking, and the door never swings wide. This is the grief you may need to prepare for. Not the grief of losing someone who doesn't care, but the grief of losing someone who does care, but cannot act on it. That is a particular kind of heartbreak, because it doesn't have a villain. There's no anger to lean on. There's just sadness, and the bewildering reality that love alone isn't always enough. If you reach this point, if you realize that his complexity has become a permanent obstacle rather than a temporary one, then your individuation demands that you choose yourself, not in bitterness, not in revenge, but in the quiet, strong recognition that you cannot save someone who hasn't decided to save themselves. And that act of choosing yourself, even when it breaks your heart, is one of the bravest things a human being can do. But let me give you the other side too, because this is not a hopeless story. Many men do wake up. Something happens, a crisis, a loss, a moment of unbearable clarity, and the door that was sealed shut cracks open and light floods in, and suddenly the unconscious patterns that controlled them for years become visible. And in that visibility, there is choice, real choice. For the first time, they can see what they've been doing and decide to do it differently. Sometimes the thing that wakes them up is losing you. I say this not to give you a strategy, not to tell you that leaving will make him come back. That's manipulation, and Jung would have no patience for it. I say it because it's true. Sometimes the loss of something real and precious is the only shock strong enough to penetrate the ego's defenses and reach the unconscious where the real change has to happen. If he wakes up, if he begins the slow, painful, beautiful work of facing his shadow, integrating his anima, dismantling the false persona, and discovering who he really is underneath, then you will see a transformation that is almost indescribable. A man who has done this work loves differently. He loves from wholeness, not from need. He loves with his eyes open, not through a fog of projection. He can be present. He can be steady. He can hold your pain without running from it, because he has learned to hold his own. That man is on the other side of the struggle. You're watching him fight. And whether he reaches that other side in time for your relationship or not is the one thing neither you nor anyone else can control. Now, let me gather all of this together, because I want you to leave this video not with confusion, but with clarity, not with easy answers, but with real ones. Here is what Jung's work teaches us about a man who loves you but can't fully be with you. 1. His love is real. The fact that it's tangled in unconscious material doesn't make it less genuine. It makes it human. Every person alive carries wounds and patterns from their past, and love is the thing that activates them most powerfully. His struggle is not a performance. It is the collision between what he feels and what he's equipped to handle. 2, his withdrawal is not about you, it is about the shadow, the anima, the mother complex, the persona, the entire architecture of his inner world that has been disrupted by the force of his feelings. For you are not the problem. You are the mirror, and mirrors show us things we're not always ready to see. 3, understanding him does not obligate you to wait for him. Compassion is a gift. Patience is a virtue, but self-sacrifice is not love. Your needs matter. Your timeline matters. Your right to a full, present, reciprocal relationship matters. And if his inner work is taking longer than your heart can sustain, you are allowed to honor that truth. 4, his journey is his own. You can love him through it, but you cannot walk it for him. The descent into the unconscious, the confrontation with the shadow, the integration of the anima, these are solitary tasks by nature. You can witness, you can support, but the work belongs to him. 5, your own unconscious is part of the story. The dynamic between you is not one-sided. Your animus, your own patterns, your own unresolved material, these are all active in this relationship. Use this experience not just to understand him, but to understand yourself. What are you drawn to? What are you tolerating? What are you afraid to see? 6, love is a force of transformation. It is not meant to be comfortable. It is meant to make us grow. The pain you are experiencing is not meaningless. It is the labor of 2 psyches trying to evolve through the medium of their connection. Whether the relationship survives or not, you will emerge from this changed. And if you let it, that change will be the most valuable thing this love gives you. Let me leave you with one more image. Something from Jung that I find almost unbearably beautiful. Jung often spoke of the syzygy, the divine pair, the union of masculine and feminine that exists as an archetype in every human psyche. It is the image of 2 souls perfectly joined, not in the erasing of differences, but in the embrace of them. It is the idea that wholeness comes not from being the same, but from 2 complete individuals meeting in the space between their depths. This is the love you are longing for, not the love of fantasy, where everything is easy and no one is wounded, but the love of reality, where 2 people see each other fully, shadows and all, and choose each other anyway, where the defenses come down, not because they're unnecessary, but because the trust is great enough to make them so. That love exists. Jung saw it in his patients. He saw it in mythology. He saw it in the deepest layers of the human psyche. And he believed it was the purpose of all this struggle, all this pain, all this confusion. The gold at the bottom of the alchemical process, whether you find it with this man or with another, or most importantly within yourself, that love is your birthright. You were made for it. Your soul is structured for it. And the very fact that you can feel it calling, even in the midst of all this confusion, tells you something about who you are. You are someone who refuses to love on the surface. You are someone who wants the real thing, even when the real thing is hard. And in Jungian terms, that makes you rare. That makes you someone who is already on the path. Someone whose soul is already awake enough to demand depth in a world that keeps trying to sell you shallow. So here is what I want you to carry with you after this video. Not a verdict on your relationship, not a prescription for what to do next, but this: you are not confused because something is wrong with you. You are confused because you are in contact with something deep, both in him and in yourself. And deep things do not yield their truths easily. They ask for patience. They ask for courage. They ask for the willingness to sit in the not knowing and trust that clarity will come. It will come. Maybe not today, maybe not in the form you expect, but it will come. Because the psyche moves toward wholeness the way water moves toward the sea. It is relentless, it is patient, and it never ever stops. Trust that movement. In Him, if He earns that trust, in yourself, always, and in the deep ancient wisdom of the soul that brought you here today, to this video, to these words, because some part of you already knew what you needed to hear. You are seeing, you are not foolish, and the love you feel is telling you the truth, even when everything around it seems like confusion. Hold on to that. We've reached the end of this journey, but for you, it's just beginning. If any of this touched something inside you, leave a comment. Tell me which part you felt most deeply. Share this video with someone who might need it. And subscribe, because we're going to keep going deeper. There is so much more to explore. So much more your soul is asking to understand. And I'll be here when you're ready. Take care of yourself. You deserve it more than you know.